Welcome to Growth with Portia, a weekly conversation for your personal and professional growth. Here is your host, Portia Booker.
Hey listeners, welcome to Growth with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and yes, this is my real name. So question for you, did you bring your curious mind today? If so, I don't want to keep you waiting. Let's dive in. This conversation is episode 2 in the part 2 series of honoring my beloved mother, Sharonne Lopez, who made her transition from Earth on July 7, 2022. So today I am joined by an artist who is on a mission to create an authentic connection between the artist and audience through inspirational lyrics, bold emotion, and realness, no pun intended, picked up through their life journey. So without further delay, welcome singer and songwriter Lisa E. Williams. How you doing today, Lisa?
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that. I'm awesome.
Hey, every day is awesome, like the Lego song. Remember that?
Yeah.
Awesome is literally one of my favorite words. I have a friend whose middle name is Awesome, but that's for a whole nother day.
I was gonna say that's awesome. That is great. That's pretty cool. Yeah, that's
so
cool.
Lisa, I always love to begin my conversations with gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
Just getting up this morning and another chance to make it better. That's exactly what I'm grateful for.
I feel it, because we call our days the present, right? And truthfully, it is because we're not promised tomorrow. We're not promised next week. And so each day gives us that clean slate, right? To either be better than who we were the day before or continue to what I call spin in the hamster wheel of shame of the day before's muck,
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I think that just giving yourself a break too, because a lot of times when I'm driving home, like I kind of think about the day that I've had and what could I've done to make it better for myself or the people that are around me. If I'm leading them that day, what can I do to make their day better? Whether it's the way I reacted to something or I reacted to them. And there's times when I go, gosh, I didn't handle that right. And I might go back the next day and say, you know what, yesterday, I know it's a new day, but I just wanted to apologize if I, made you feel some type of way. Because to me, I think that people don't have enough intuition to sort of feel people's body languages and things like that to see maybe how their day is going. So maybe the way you treat them or speak to them might be something different that you wouldn't normally do on a different day. So I don't know. I just kind of go back and see what could I have done to make that day better.
Well, and I love that, Lisa, that you take that time to really hold yourself accountable, right?
Yep.
And Lisa, what would you say it took for you to reach that level of awareness where you hold yourself accountable to where you're like, hey, what could I have done better? Whose life could have improved better, not just my own, but what could I have done that was not just in my comfort zone, but to help somebody else step out of their comfort zone and step into their authentic self?
I mean, I think that it's just, for me, I felt like it was just age, getting older and wiser, and really thinking about, where your life has been and how maybe you grew up and your environment that you were in. And mine was always a great environment, but somebody else's environment, I don't know, I feel like I take on people's emotions and then they come out in song, and I think I just learned. I'm always fascinated at how the mind works, and my biggest fascination is people's vulnerability and the lack of people being vulnerable and people actually being vulnerable. So I really think that is, and myself included. So I guess as time and I got older, I just kind of looked at myself and wanted to know how I would react to certain thing and just really trying to hone in on people's energy. Whether it was a customer standing at the register and their arms are folded, and maybe they're in a hurry, and really trying to really think about how they're feeling about things. And maybe just a word is to them might be just like, hey, how's your day going? Instead of not saying anything to them. So I think it's just a matter of growing up, being older and wiser, and how you want to be treated yourself,
Well, like they say, the golden rule is treat others as you wish to be treated.
100.
And Lisa, I love what you mentioned about vulnerability. Oh my
That's my
goodness.
word. That is my word.
Mine too. I think that we live in a society where we preach vulnerability is a sign of strength. But truthfully, let's be honest, a lot of people are not practicing what they preach.
Yes.
Vulnerability is still painted under the umbrella of weakness, the
Yeah.
same like with crying. Like I mentioned to you earlier that I was recording a podcast with a friend earlier. And one
Mhm.
of the things that I talked about was in our society, there's this expectation that crying, showing any type of emotion is deemed weak. But
Yeah.
we're human. We
Yeah.
have feelings. I mean, could you imagine a world where we were all like the Tin Man? Oh, I think we'd be miserable 24
Yeah.
7,
I
365.
agree with that.
But that's for a whole nother day. Lisa, what did it take for you to step into that calling of being vulnerable, allowing yourself to be vulnerable? Because I think, especially in communities of color, let's be honest,
Mm.
vulnerability is stigmatized the same way as mental health. So
Oh yeah.
what would you say it took for you to be comfortable being vulnerable and shed that uncomfortableness that comes with being vulnerable?
I think just different past relationships that I've had. I think that a lot of times the reason for me, what I think about why relationships don't last, whether it's an intimate relationship or just a friendship relationship, is because I think people don't open up and talk about what's really going on with them. You know
Mm.
what I mean? I think and I know I did that myself, and so I know that I didn't want to be that person anymore, and so I just really try to be very open as best as I can. There's some things that I'm not vulnerable about, but I know that I want to be what I have to say. I want it to be heard and be able to say it in a safe space. And so I surround myself with people that I know I can be vulnerable with. Even with my parents, I didn't feel like I could do that before, but I can do it now. If I need something or if I feel something, I can tell them, and they are open to listen to what I have to say. So it's the three words are open, honest, and vulnerable, and I think
Mm.
that's the key to long lasting friendships or relationships. If you can be that in those spaces with people that you feel safe with, to be able to be vulnerable, and I think that's the key, is being in the safe space.
Cool. Open, honest, and vulnerable. I love that, Lisa. And I think people need a refresher on that. It
Mm.
seems that we've reached a point in our life, in our society today, where openness is met with closed mindedness,
Yeah.
vulnerability is met with you're too weak,
Hmm.
and honesty is buried with
Mm. Yeah.
dishonest.
Yeah.
And we it's like we live in an oxymoronic life
Mm.
when you think about it, because it seems that everything is opposite to what it is.
Right.
We say that we want truth, but when we serve the truth,
Mm.
what I often hear is, oh, I wasn't ready for that. Well, what were you ready for? What? I mean,
Right.
it pickles and cucumbers are not the same. you,
Right. It's
you're
a good
not gonna
analogy.
get, it's tomatoes and ketchup are not the same.
Right. Right.
So it's
Right.
like, what do you mean? So Lisa, for you, what do you think it will take for us as a society to reach that point of being more direct, being more open, being more honest, and being more vulnerable, and feeling as though we have that safe space to, share our authentic self? What do you think it will take for us to reach that pivotal point in our society today?
I think that the biggest thing is that everybody wants to be the change, but they want their change to be the one that's on top. And by that I
Mm,
mean,
mm,
they really want to change, but uh, they want it's listening to people's pain and really listen to what their pain points are, and that's why there's such a push and pull with people having conversations and trying to solve problems, whatever it is, whether it's world leaders, whatever it is. But I think that people just don't want to hear other people's pain, and so they talk over, but they want their solution to be the one that changes, that makes that light switch go off. And I think that's until we can get to a place where everybody's open and vulnerable about what they really need or how they got hurt or how this hurt them in the past and try to find a solution for that, it's going to be tough to get to a point where even this world, this nation can really come together. And I think that is, it's a sad thing, but there's still some beauty into trying to get to that point if you can try to reach somebody through vulnerability and then listening to them as well and being able to understand whatever their pain points are, whatever subject it is, whether it's race, whether it's mental health. Because with mental health, people always get over it, because if you don't have cancer and you don't see lesions or whatever on you, it's it's not real. Like if some older person parks in the handicap and they have a handicap sticker, but they get out of the car, they can walk. You're not disabled. You're not disabled. You don't know what their disability is. And I think that's the biggest misstep that we have in life, that they want to see your illness or your disability or your mental health issue, and to visualize that it's actually real. And I think that's just a sad state of affairs that we're still in with mental health. So I don't know if I answered that question or not, but
no, one of the things that you really just said was so profound, that we have to see in order to validate.
Right. Yeah.
That's still, me and my friend were just having a discussion about addiction and mental health. And I know that some people tend to put both of these things in two separate categories.
Yeah.
But to me, addiction is the physicalness of a underlying mental health related challenge.
Right. Yeah.
Versus if you have, say, a depression or bipolar or schizophrenia or any other anxiety, you may not, quote unquote, exhibit something, quote unquote, physical that people can recognize.
Right.
Because we've all had bouts of anxiety plague us at one point.
Sure.
Look at when we go to a job interview, our palms are sweating like we could literally water a whole desert.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're right. Exactly.
We've all had moments of depression when we've been, plagued with grief, and that, and we'll get into that later on. But let's be honest, grief really is a whirlwind of emotions that you're going to experience. And so I think we need to find that openness again in society, where we don't always need, quote unquote, physical proof.
Yeah.
If somebody tells you they're depressed, hear them.
Yeah, exactly.
Because there's people who have functional depression. They're not always laying under 8 blankets for 9 days at a time. Some people go to work, they take care of their families, they go to the grocery store, but then it's those after hours when everybody's asleep, the world is still, is where they're hit with the whirlwind of their emotions, of the sadness, of the grief.
Yeah. I agree 100%. Yep. 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 That's the quiet times. I know when I'm depressed, a lot of times I don't even realize it, but I'll sleep on the couch. I got a big old 2-bedroom condo by myself, and I'll sleep on the couch for 3 or 4 days. And I know that that's an issue, So it's you're right, because you're trying to do a lot. But again, that goes back to vulnerability and really telling people what you need to help you through this,
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we just need to be more vocal and be more transparent, because I've found that my vulnerability has led me into more doors of opportunity than being closed off. And so we're going to take our first quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody stick with us. We will be right back. Everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. I'm joined remotely with singer-songwriter Lisa Williams. We were just having a great conversation about vulnerability and how to shift our mindset to an open, honest, and transparent life. So, Lisa, let's be honest here. I've heard, like, when you begin on a music journey. I feel like music is a form of like spirituality to me. And, when you begin on that music journey, I've heard that the instrument picks the owner. So, how did you determine the guitar was, no pun intended, the right pick for you?
I like that. I have a cousin that played guitar. When we used to go to California and visit them, and he played this electric guitar. He used to play with he played with Mickey Howard and Natalie Cole and people like that. And I was always in awe of that, And so my dad would buy me this imitation electric guitar, and I learned from that. So it picked me through that. And so that's how I picked up the guitar. And I'm actually left-handed, but I play the guitar right-handed. And I think, when you're doing the air guitar and the mirror and everything. And so I think that's just the way I picked it up. So I play right-handed.
And so, Lisa, did you maybe get exposed to other instruments prior to picking the guitar as your instrument of choice? Like, did you maybe have an interest in piano or the drums or the whirlwind, the woodwinds? What would you say? Anything else was in that?
No, it was always the guitar. And it was like, I love the Beatles and James Taylor's. It was always that acoustic guitar that drew me in, because you didn't have to plug it up or anything. You could take it anywhere with you and you could play it anywhere. So I think that's what, sort of, solidified me playing that instrument.
And so, Lisa, when you're working on your music, I'm always curious because singers, songwriters, each of them have their flow per se to, creating their craft or honing in on a song or whatever, a beat. And so when you're working on your music, do you find that the lyrics comes first or the melody comes first or vice versa? What's your creative process?
It's a different, what I was thinking about this the other day. It's different every time. So a lot of times I'll just pick up the guitar and I'll just start playing a melody or something, and then words will come, and then I'm like, I gotta push the record, because you think you're gonna remember what you're saying or how you sang it, and you don't. And so so it's just different every time. I might just start typing some words in the computer, and then I'll go back to those lyrics and add them to that melody or whatever. So it's different every time. And so it's just and it depends on what's happening in my life or somebody else's life. I've written a lot of songs about divorce and people trying to figure out what they want to do with their life and in their relationship. So it just depends. It's just different every time. No set process.
So, Lisa, I got to ask the obvious question. How much time would you say that you spend on average a day honing in on your craft? I've heard that a lot of veteran musicians will spend minimum 3 to 4 hours at a time a day on their craft. Like, they'll probably break it up, but what would you say is your average amount of time that you spend really with your guitar, with your emotions? What does that look like for you?
Oh gosh, I mean, it could be 2-3 hours a day. It could be, if I'm going for a 45-minute walk, it could be, it could be 2-3-4 hours a day. Sometimes I'll just just sit with my guitar and strum and strum and strum, and then I'll go to the recorder and put that strum into my workstation, and then I'll start maybe building a track. So it could be, sometimes it's still 2 or 3 in the morning, so it just varies at whatever emotional state I'm in, I guess.
And do you find, Lisa, that depending on the emotional state, whether you're kind of in that depressed state or a more jovial, upbeat, happy, do you find that that dictates how much time you spend? And do you also notice a more heightened creative flow when you're in that depressed state, or more when you're in the depressed state? I mean, more when you're in the happy state.
Oh, it's definitely more than the depressed state. I have a writers group that I go to every Monday night, and I said, here comes Lisa with her morose songs, and they always love them. You know what I mean? Because it's just so raw, and it's so crazy. And a lot of times those songs are not about me or my life; it's about other people who have been going through some stuff. So it's definitely more heightened during this sort of, depressed state, if you will. And I have to say, I love it, because something always comes out beautiful from that, for me.
And so, Lisa, when you're playing your guitar, I'm sure that you have like your warm-up songs that you sing before you really get into the flow and the groove. Is there a particular artist who really you resonated with, when you first began and to this day? I would say listening to your songs, I get more of a Tracy Chapman vibe.
I mean, definitely, she was I don't know that she was an influence per se, but I definitely, I listened to her stuff. Fast Car will always be a classic for me. Just such a classic song. And then like always like old school James Taylor, just something that's so subtle and just a beautifully guitar picking or whatever. And so any of that stuff that I kind of go back to and try to use as a reference track, so if you will, in my mind about maybe how I want something to sound or whatever. But it's anything that's like old James Taylor, modern Tracy Chapman. Those are the sort of my go-to people.
Now, I will admit, I am a Tracy Chapman fan. My great grandmother used to always sing, "Give me one reason to stay here."
Yeah.
And when I hear the lyrics still to this day, I chuckle because I think of my great grandmother. And the same with Fast Car. I do love Fast Car. I love the lyrics. The lyrics are just so beautiful because it reminds you of those movies where you're young and you're at that pivoting point in your life where you're like, I'm tired of what I'm doing. I'm not happy. I'm limited on money, but I know that I have a dream that I need to chase. And that's what I always think of with Fast Car.
Yeah, it's certainly like fall's my favorite time of year. It's certainly a convertible drop top down, which is your best friend or your girlfriend or whatever, just driving down, you're singing the chorus together. And those are kind of songs that just really are just timeless. That song will be forever timeless. That's such a great song.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
Yeah.
When I am practicing for any podcast that I'm about to do or show recordings, I pick a different song to sing each time.
Oh,
and
wow.
Fast Car is one of the ones that I'll pick from.
Yeah.
I'll either do Fast Car or The Fray, How to Save a Life,
Oh,
or,
yeah, I love them, man.
Daughtery or Nickelback. It just depends on one, my emotion. Two, obviously how long it's been since I've practiced. Because sometimes I'm recording 6 or 7 shows a week, but then I'll take a break for like a week and I'm like, my vocals are a little bit on the, rusty end. So I got to put some WD-40 or something on there to get them to work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool that we like a lot of the same stuff. That's good. That's good stuff. Yeah.
And Lisa, for you, obviously you play guitar, you've been playing for quite some time. What's your preference, acoustic or electric, or is it mostly acoustic for you?
Oh, it's definitely mostly acoustic. I mean, I had an electric and I just sold it like a few months back. I mean, just for me, it just adds a different tone to a song or whatever, but I'm definitely acoustic. So I have like 3 acoustic guitars right now.
And do you prefer just the straight acoustic or acoustic electric?
If I'm playing out, I like the acoustic electric, but if I'm here, I like to mic the guitar because the wood just sounds so much better and cleaner when there's no electronics added to it, So yeah.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that. I love a nice little hum that you hear from a regular acoustic. And Lisa, let's talk about that. When you are out performing, how did you learn to overcome kind of like that stage fright and nervousness? How did you learn to convert that energy into excitement?
It's so crazy. I played at a coffee house a few months back. I was like, man, I can't believe I'm still nervous. And I guess then the audience just comes to you and just like, ooh, you got this, you got this. You know what I mean? You just kind of let it sit back. And a lot of times I'll just take a deep breath and I'll close my eyes and I'll just start playing. And then that's it. So it's really just a meditative thing in your own mindset. It's just like, you got this. You just close your eyes and just play and just tell the story. And that's how I do it.
So you play with your eyes closed still.
Oh yeah.
I find that so interesting because I've heard another singer tell me that when someone is performing, if they sing with their eyes closed, they're literally opening up their vulnerable side.
That's good to know. I didn't realize that, but I did have somebody tell me once, "Oh, you didn't connect with the people because you didn't look at them." I just can't do it. I can do it afterwards, and I can have a conversation and tell them about the song beforehand. But I just have to close my eyes, and I'm just like, I'm just in my own, on my own space, and then they can feed off that however they like to feed off of that. But I just keep my eyes closed. So yeah.
Well, and then you're in your element of genius, right? I mean, even for me, sometimes, like when I'm doing certain activities, like I'm a writer, sometimes I write my best work or do my best work with my eyes closed. Or when I'm not trying to write, because I do a lot of voice to text on my phone or like my tablet when I'm doing little things, preparing for speeches, for example.
Yeah.
If I'm preparing for a speech, I can't always just sit at a computer and type out the words. I'm old school Lisa. I'm somebody who prefers the old fashioned pen to paper.
Yeah.
Versus trying to type a story on a computer. I don't feel that connection. I need that concreteness of a pen to paper, that scent of the ink going across whatever type of paper, whether it's parchment, whether it's paper from all the way in Jesus' time, whatever it is, I need that connection.
Yeah.
Because that's what, to me, helps to utilize all of my senses, each and every one. And I think it's the same with you when you're performing on stage. When your eyes are closed, you're taking in the full environment. It's a coffee shop, right? But you can smell, obviously, the fresh brew of the coffee roast, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
You can take in the vibe of the people who are coming in and who are listening, if they're snapping or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think to me, it's quite profound. Well, I don't know if there's a different vibe, truthfully, that is given off for somebody who can perform with their eyes closed. Because I almost wonder, like, how do you stay focused?
That helps me stay focused because you're in your own head. You're just, you know what I mean? I don't have to look at the guitar to see what the chords I'm playing because I know it. So it just really, it's something about that, When I listen to music sometimes, I'm here by myself, the lights are off and I have my eyes closed and I'm listening to music. Same thing. So yeah.
Well, and they say, music heals the soul, and sometimes you need everything else around you to go dark in order to spring forth the light that is still going, even though it might be a little turned down, but it's still there. So I definitely agree with that 100%, Lisa. Well, we're going to take another quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody stick with us. We will be right back. Everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. I'm joined remotely with singer-songwriter Lisa Williams, and we were just having a great conversation, of course, about her musical flow and how she, no pun intended, finds her groove when she's playing her guitar, when she's out at coffee shops and all that great stuff. And so, Lisa, for our listeners, if they are interested in connecting with you and learning more about you, is there a website or social media handle you can share with us today?
Yeah, so my Instagram is 1.8 films. And my Twitter is at Lisa E Music. So if you want to reach me, I'd love to hear from folks. I always like to connect with people and talk and see what's going on in life. So yeah.
Yeah, so everybody, you can connect with Lisa at your leisure on Instagram or Twitter, whatever glitters your fancy, or no pun intended, whatever is your pick to socialize. So, Lisa, let's dive into your music. I really want to talk about your song, Set Me Free. And when I first heard it, Lisa, I had to actually stop it after 30 seconds of hearing it because I could feel the emotions within myself springing forward. And a lot of people know, as I've mentioned in the very beginning of this show, that I'm doing this series to honor my mom, who passed away on July 7th of this year. And so I felt the heaviness, I felt the strong emotions. So I got to ask Lisa, what was going on when this song came from a vision into fruition where you needed to be set free?
Well, again, I always say this, a lot of songs I write about other people, but I had a friend of mine that was going through anxiety, and I have a friend that has a problem with addiction that I've known since he was a kid, and he's still going through that. And there was a book called An Unquiet Mind by Kay Jamison. And so the line, an angry heart, an unquiet mind, because your mind is always going, trying to figure out what is going on and why these voices. And I get them too. So when I'm going through depression, when I get them too, you're trying to figure out, why can't the words that are trying to destroy you be something that's trying to, make you stronger. And so that was that line, is like, why can't my words be, words that can, set me free? And then these voices tell you, you're not good enough, you're not this, you're not that. And so, and when I wrote that song, and after I listened to it, I know a lot of it pertains to me because I'm writing it and it's coming out of me. But initially it was about these two young people that I know that were having a rough time. And so, but when I go back and listen to it, it's really about all of us that are struggling with voices that have made us think of ourselves in a different way, and we want to be better. And so that's kind of where that song got birth from.
Lisa, I can resonate with that. I mean, as someone who has also done and dealt with my own mental health journey, I mean, even now in the grief process that I'm in, of finding that balance of maintaining my own mental well-being and also going through the grief process in a as healthy way as possible. I can resonate with that because sometimes I just want to be set free of these heavy emotions, of all the people telling me things will get better, it's a great loss, all the other guilt that people tend to unintentionally place upon me.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that wanting of being set free of the hurt, of the heaviness that tends to plague us on a 24/7 basis at times, right?
Yeah.
Because we wake up, we go to work, we're in that, like I said, the hamster wheel of shame, some of us 24/7. And where is that break? Where do we get set free from the noise of society to be able to really hear our own voice and find peace and comfort?
Well, it's strange because, I don't know if I told you this, my mom died when I was 6 months old, and there's still a huge longing for that relationship, even though, I was raised by my stepmother, that's all the mother I ever known. And sometimes, that even her being not here for 59 years, it's still a grief point for me, and I guess most of it is just not knowing enough about her and her family, because when she passed, my father never kept in touch with her family, so I don't know any of that. And so there are times when I, that sort of, plagues my mind from time to time, but and you want to be set free from those things as well. And so it's just an ongoing journey of trying to figure out a way to reconcile that, and maybe put it in a place where it isn't so painful,
Lisa, I love what you just brought up about that grief of a childhood that you didn't have with your biological mother. And I think that's a unique path of grief that we don't talk about, right? We talk about grief in the sense of what is presently transpired, right? Whether it's a loved one who has transitioned, like my mother, or that job promotion that we got overlooked for, getting fired from a job, a relationship ending, but not so much the grief of not having a relationship or having the childhood that could have been, because this person had already finished their assignment while
Right.
you were on the scene.
Yeah.
And so, Lisa, for you, for our listeners who are tuning in, how can they begin to heal from that grief of a life that they didn't have? What does that look like for them? Is it divulging into creative crafts such as singer-songwriter, or really being like what we talked about, open, honest, and transparent? How can people begin to heal from that, Lisa?
I guess the first step is recognizing whatever that hurt is, and you know, whether it's and recognizing it, maybe going to therapy or writing, and like you said, you were talking about writing things down. It's more, it feels real and solid and anchored when you're writing it on a piece of paper. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
if that's what helps you get through it. But I do think that really trying to recognize what that pain is, because sometimes the pain is masked and you act it out in a different way, whether it's alcohol or just anger or whatever. So you got to make sure that you understand what your pain points are and working through that. So that's through therapy, that's through songwriting, that's through just writing in a journal and getting it out, and writing a letter to yourself or writing a letter to the person that's deceased, and just having that letter. Any of those things can maybe be a turning point to figuring out how to move past it.
Lisa, I love how you brought up about writing a letter and taking action, right? Instead
Mhm.
of continuing to let those thoughts fester and obviously come out as your body aching and different things like
Mm,
that. I shared this on the podcast that I was a guest on today, where I talked about the gratefulness and gratitude of the life of my mother. Like, yeah, it pains me that my mom will not be able to walk me down the aisle if I ever get married.
mhm,
My mom won't be able to meet her grandchildren if I ever do have kids. And what gives me a sense of comfort, Lisa, is the day that my mom made her transition, I got a good 5-10 minutes with her before things kind of went downhill.
mhm,
And I told her, I said, Ma, I want to thank you. I thank you for giving me life. I
mm,
thank you for being my cheerleader when I couldn't cheer for myself. I thank you for always encouraging me to pursue my dreams when everybody else laughed at me. And I
mm,
said, the one thing that I always want you to remember is I wouldn't want to call anybody else mommy but you.
mm,
And, I don't know what made me, Lisa, record that on my phone, because right after I told my mom that, my mom said, that means my job is done.
mm,
Thank you, darling.
mm,
So even though for some that may appear to be a bittersweet moment, but for me, that's what gives me comfort
yeah.
to not fall into the pit of grieving the future
Mm,
of my mom not being physically present for some of these milestones within
yeah.
my life that are going to happen.
Mhm,
Even right now, as I'm in the grief process, Lisa, I find more comfort most times in writing. I find really pouring my emotions
mm,
into something creative. I mean, I've always wanted to be an author,
yeah.
always since I was a little kid. And now I've submitted my first short story for publication. I'm
Nice.
also working on 2 books. I mean,
That's great. Yeah.
I think we almost need to look at grief as a window of opportunity
Mm,
instead of us continuing to take on what I call the societal prescription of
Oh.
grief as doom, gloom,
Mm-hmm.
it's bad, all the emotions are too heavy. I think we need to change our mindset and look at
Mm-hmm.
grief as truly a window of opportunity for our best benefit.
Mm. I love that. I love that. Yeah, because it could be a strong catalyst to move you forward. And they say the same thing about fear. It's a strong catalyst to move you forward, or have you complete something. And the other piece I wanted to say, my stepmother, and again, she's the only mother I ever know. We kind of had a rocky relationship, throughout our years, but this pandemic, boy, I tell you, and I decided that I was going to accept her for who she was. This is how she is. This is her. But I don't know, through this pandemic, she became a completely different person. I mean, I think she's told me I love you more than she ever has in my entire adult life. She texts me every day, little emojis, heart emojis. So that was a blessing too, so yeah, emotions and grief is it's a powerful thing within ourselves. And I think you're right. That it can move you forward and be a catalyst for your own greatness, you know.
Yes, I think we can either let grief imprison us or find a purpose
Yeah.
within the grief process.
Mm.
So we're going to take another quick break right here on Group Portia. Everybody stick with us. We will be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back right here on Group Portia. Well, Lisa, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing with our listeners one, your vulnerability, two, how you've been able to convert and channel your emotions into something beautiful, such as being a singer songwriter, and three, giving our listeners another avenue to look at grief and also make their life better. I thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Lisa, I know we've touched on this a lot throughout the conversation about mental health. I mean, you wear so many hats, Lisa. I mean, obviously, you're a caregiver of your father and your stepmother. Obviously, you're a singer songwriter. You also probably have some other responsibilities. So, Lisa, how do you prioritize your mental well being and find that balance between your passion and love of music and giving people that connection between the artist and the audience and also maintaining your mental wellness?
Well, I read this book called Boundaries a few months back, and one of the things you have to learn to do,
Mm.
and myself included, is to really learn how to set boundaries. And it's okay to say no to things. It's okay, and you have to don't. I don't do guilt very well, so I really try to set boundaries for myself. And it was hard. It's still hard sometimes, but sometimes you just have to say no. And it's okay if, and most people are okay with that, and if they're not, then that's still okay. But the biggest thing is to my mom just texted me, what do you want for dinner? Can you get the mail when you go up? um it's to really set boundaries. Like yesterday, I was supposed to go to my parents' house. Like, Mom, I'm not gonna be able to come tonight. She said, that's okay. You know what I mean? But you just have to be able to set boundaries and stick to them for yourself. And I think that's the biggest key, is to try for your own mental health, because it's okay to say no, and it's okay to set boundaries for yourself to keep your mental health in check.
And Lisa, what did it really take for you to stop feeling guilty for saying no? Because I feel like us as women,
Mm,
we fall into that people pleasing wheel of shame
yeah.
and we cheat ourselves. We say no to us and yes to
Mhm.
everybody else. So, what did it take for you to really stand firm in your boundary and look at that as a growth opportunity for you and not care about everybody else's perception of you?
It's really just reading that book and putting those things in that book called Boundaries into practice. And sometimes it's hard. It's a challenge because we are people pleasers. We are ones that's what we want to nurture and take care of everybody else except for ourselves. But really just reading that book and putting the practices that book has given me to say no, because if someone else can do what you can do as well. And so whether it's work related and your boss wants you to come in late because whatever, or stay late or whatever, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. And then most of the times they'll be like, okay. But if you always say yes, they're always going to come to you because they know you're going to say yes. And you just have to let them know that you are now a different person and you have a life that you want to take care of. And so it's really putting into practice those things, setting your boundaries. And it's like an addiction. You're always that person, but you got to put it into practice. And it's hard. And you might fall back, but you got to keep going. So.
Ooh, I love what you said about addiction, because that behavior is a hard cycle to break.
Yep. Yep.
Especially if you're accustomed to doing it for 5, 10, I mean, your whole life.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people, I think, sometimes fall into that boat of, I've always been this way.
Yes. Yep.
Or my favorite one that Lisa just really grinds my gears to this day is, that's just how they are.
Right. Oh, I hate that too.
And, I'm a firm believer that if that's just how they are, then that's just where they're going to stay.
You're 100% right. Yep. Yep.
That's always going to be their boat. And they're stunting their own growth. They're hindering themselves from stepping into their true calling and their purpose. Because I'm a firm believer, especially since after my mom made her transition, I believe that life is about transformation. We're not supposed to stay in the same boat 15, 20 years down the line. I believe that we're all called for a purpose here, and we all know what it is. I believe that we all do. But I think a lot of us are too afraid to embark on our purpose-driven journey because either one, and Lisa, I'm sure you can agree, people don't support it, your family doesn't support it. 2, they don't see the same vision that you do. 3, because nobody else sees that same vision, it's stupid. It's not. Or I've seen this too, where people want the vision and the drive and the talent that somebody else has instead of finding comfort in their own abilities and skills.
Yeah. 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 I agree with that. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think more of us need to just be confident in who we are. We've all been uniquely tailored to make an impact in this world in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Lisa, look at you. You've converted your quote unquote mental health challenges into beautiful lyrics.
Yeah.
Music to help people heal. Like they say, music heals the soul.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've had songs you heal me. I mean, songs that you listen to that just break you down and build you right back up. It's just I couldn't live without. I could not live without music. I couldn't do it.
And I think we all need to find that boat again of opportunity. Like we need to be curious children again. I think we've lost that ability in our adult life to play, to give ourselves permission to unleash our inner 10-year-old. Like, little digression, Lisa, whenever I travel, I always, when I'm on the plane, I watch Disney Plus. And the movie I always watch is Hocus Pocus. That's one of my favorite movies from childhood. And why do I pick that movie? Because Max, Danny, and Allison remind me of me being a 10-year-old. So I'm giving myself permission to have the curiosity and the fearlessness that they have in Hocus Pocus?
Well, I agree with that. It's funny you say that because that's what we do. Like, if you're trying to do something in life and you think you can't do it, what would you tell your 6-year-old self? You tell your 6-year-old self to go for it. You know what I mean? And I think that we, like you said, you have to give ourselves permission to be fearless, to be whatever we want to be. And I think that that's why children are so fearless, so fearless. And then I feel like society corrupts them and tries to make them so fearful of what's going to go on in life and what could possibly happen when you just look forward and just keep focused on what you want to do. I think you'll be fine. But you're right. I think it's allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to be whatever that is. So yeah.
Yes, be the change you wish to see in the world, one step at a time.
That's the magnet on my door.
Lisa, this was a fantastic conversation. I thank you again for coming on and sharing so much food for thought with our listeners today. And we're going to be wrapping up here soon, Lisa. And once again, if our listeners want to connect with you and learn more about you, can you share your social media handles one more time?
Yeah, again, thank you again for having me. This is a great conversation. It's Lisa E Music on Twitter. So it's at Lisa E Music on Twitter. And my website is lisaemusic.com. And I'm saying lisaewilliamsmusic.com. And then my Instagram is 1.8 films on Instagram. So find me. I'd love to hear from you.
Excellent. Well, Lisa, I always love to save this question for last. What words of inspiration can you leave with our listeners today? Whether it's someone who was once in your same shoes that is still in somewhat of a grief process of the childhood that they didn't have, or if it's someone who wants to change the world by using their craft to build more connection and help other people heal. What words of inspiration, Lisa, can you leave with our listeners today?
The only thing I'll say is always be your authentic self. That's it. Always be your authentic self. That's it.
Hey, short, sweet, and simple. I couldn't agree more because I've found that me being vulnerable has opened more doors of opportunity than if I was trying to continue to put up a front of somebody who I believed that I was supposed to be.
Right.
Be authentic, own your calling, and really be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Because the truth will indeed set you free. Well, everybody, that was singer and songwriter Lisa E. Williams that you heard from. And that concludes another episode of Grew with Portia, everybody. Thanks for listening and have a good evening.
An angry heart and an unquiet mind. Words don't make sense inside your head. One more pill, gotta keep them down. It's like holding your breath when you're drowning underwater. Why can't my words be words that can free me from all the noise that's in my head? Set me free. Can you hear me? Are you listening? I pray with grace to move them to How can my words be